What's going on, everybody? This is the Collective Objective. Tonight we're going to do a two-part episode. First, we're going to do a music open mic night, and we have Chris and Alex with us. With me tonight is Destiny as my co-host. It's going to be really great. I got to hear them both do a mic check, and they're both very talented. So if you're tuning in, you're in for a treat. So I don't know if you guys want to do a brief introduction, just so everybody's aware of how I know everyone. Destiny obviously is one of my co-hosts on the Collective Objective. We're good friends. We talk daily. Chris, I have had the pleasure of meeting in the groups. I'm in some Facebook groups, mostly political, but I'm also in his cryptocurrency group, which is really interesting and very informative. And Alex has been a family friend and a friend for a very long time. And I've watched her grow up both musically and in life. So I'm Justin. I am one of the hosts of the Collective Objective. If this is your first time tuning in, it's kind of it's a very unifying type of podcast. We do debate topics, but it's always from a place of conversation. It's never really it's never heated. It's about walking away from the table and feeling like you had a productive conversation, even if you disagree. So with that, I will pass the mic to Destiny, and then we will let the two artists introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm Destiny, and unfortunately my camera is not working tonight, so you don't get to see my beautiful face. Sorry. But I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. Chris, I don't know if you want to do your introduction first, or Alex. So the way I think Alex, your mic is on mute.
Okay. Hi. I'm Alexandra. I go by AJ. I've been singing all of my life. I taught myself how to play the guitar around the age of 13. I am 20 years old now. I was on season 13 of The Voice in 2017, and I had the honor of being on Jennifer Hudson's team. I was 16 years old at the time. It was a really crazy experience, and looking back now, it was a really beautiful stepping stone to help me grow as an artist. I got to meet some amazing musicians and work with some really amazing individuals who I'm still friends with today. So yeah, I've just been growing as an artist, discovering who I am, and exploring music as I feel comfortable doing so. So I'm excited to share today, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
Hi, I'm Chris Nickfinda. And Alex, nice to meet you. That's I didn't know about the voice, so that is really fabulous. And I'm going to have to go look that up after this for absolute real, like when we're done. So I'm sure we'll be able to find it. My name is Chris Nickfinda, and part-time songwriter. So I'll do some originals and maybe do a cover. I really appreciate the opportunity. I know we're in those Facebook groups, and you mentioned the crypto group. So that's the one where people don't argue and tend to beat each other up.
It's interesting. It's interesting being in there because you see some of the folks that you see in the political groups that normally go at each other's throats, and they're all hunky dory in there, which is really cool. It's really cool.
It is kind of cool. We actually did in one of the other groups. We did. That was just after the holidays, I think, or something. Or maybe it was right before, where we had done sort of a similar to this, but we did it sort of, I think, on Zoom and invited a bunch of people. And it was literally people who were using the foulest insults and getting banned left and right on all of their alts, just sort of like trying to find some common ground, at least a little bit. Or they were at least, I guess I would say, reticent, to call each other the worst names. When they were live, in front of each other, they almost could just like at worst talk over each other.
It's a lot harder to go at somebody when you actually see their face and you're having a real conversation with them. It's easy to be a keyboard warrior, so to speak. But I mean, it's definitely a more humanizing experience. So
I loved it. We added, we said we were going to do it again. I know we're going to do it in the crypto group too, because there's a lot of people who have so many questions. So I may want to actually talk to you about maybe we can partner on that. So
absolutely. Set it up.
Awesome. So I'm going to do a couple songs, and then I'm just going to do a couple songs, and then I'm going to do a couple songs. And back to Justin, a little in the round. Imagine if we were in a live place, we would be trading songs back and forth, probably sitting on bar stools. And I'm in Cleveland, Ohio right now, so Memorial Day weekend, and so we have to have a fire because it's like 40 degrees outside or something. So, and raining.
It's been rainy down here too in Georgia, but it's hot. It's not cold. It's finally hot. It's been a cold year though, I'll tell you that.
Okay. The song is called Drive. It's hard to tell sometimes if you're playing curiosity and misbehaving, side eye some more than words out loud. Make the most of the time we are given while you're redefining how you're living. I'll take any minutes you got laying around. And I feel so close to you. It's the last thing I want to do. Just close the door and leave you alone. After I depart, the hardest part is waking up, realizing that you're gone. Oh, baby, I love your style. Makes me feel alive. It's been a long, long time. So baby, don't be shy. Give me the keys, I'll drive. Find ourselves in strange destinations, meeting up in secret locations. It knows it's for you and me. You're the keeper of my darkest secrets, and I push you to the cusp of weakness. It's a bubble nobody else can see. I feel close to you. The last thing I want to do is close the door and leave you alone. After I depart, the hardest part is waking up, realizing that you're gone. Oh, baby, I love your style. Feel alive. It's been a long, long time. So baby, don't be shy. Give me the keys, I'll drive. Away from you, it's the last thing I want to do is close the door and leave you alone. And after I depart, the hardest part is waking up, realizing that you're gone. Oh, baby, I love your style. Makes me feel alive. It's been a long, long time. So baby, don't be shy. Give me the keys out. Oh, baby, I love your style. Makes me feel alive. It's been a long, long time. So baby, don't be shy. Give me the keys, I'll drive. Give me the keys, I'll drive. Give me the keys, I'll drive. So the song's called Drive. I need a little water. Sound check, Justin. Is that coming through all right?
Sounds really good. It's a beautiful song.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Did you write that?
I did.
Awesome.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm a hobbyist, write songs and stuff like that. So most of the ones I'll do tonight are probably my own. Nobody's ever heard them. So
Awesome.
maybe some people have who are tuning in. I posted and we shared it. So thank you to Annalie for sharing that too. And setting up the whole fireplace vibe. That was like, I'm like, that's totally killer.
Yeah, it is.
Style. So there's a line, but I mean, like, where do you think that's coming from? Clearly, that's not my style. Do you know the song? This one's called Days. You say you might get what you asked for with your big city lifestyle and the keys to your very own door. Where were you when the lights went on? Were you talking on the phone? Can't you see what's going on? Oh, part has been postponed, but I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm sure I'm better off this way. gotta go, I'm running late. How are you? Things are great. As the seconds turn to minutes, turn to hours, and I haven't slept in days. Haven't slept in days. Now your friends have tired out. There are nothing in you. But you set up a falling for him. Come on. I think you like his tattoos. Go to work, pay your bills, rub back and forth. You're popping some pills, but I'm fine. No, I'm okay. I'm sure I'm better off this way. Gotta go, I'm running late. How are you? Things are great. As the seconds turn to minutes, turn to hours, and I haven't slept in days. Haven't slept in days. But I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm sure I'm better off this way. Gotta go, I'm running late. How are you? Hope things are great. As the seconds turn to minutes, turn to hours, and I haven't slept in days. Haven't slept in days. Oh, oh, haven't slept in days. Oh, oh, haven't slept in days. Thank you very much. If anybody was theoretically appreciative, I can never hear. Like you're like, I'm looking at a webcam. It's not even person.
No, it sounds really good. There's no sound issues at all. It's crystal clear.
I'm so old that song. I wrote that song when there was a big electrical grid power outage. I think it was like 2003, maybe, or something like that. I don't know, when everything went out from like most of the East Coast and like across Cleveland. I think it happened somewhere up in Toledo or Sandusky. Caused everything to go out. Of course, everybody at that point was conspiratorial. It's like, it's Al Qaeda. You know, here's a test run this time. But, yeah, so the light's going out. I don't know. The most fascinating aspect of that whole story, if anybody even remembers, but was the people reminiscing in New York City and talking in New York City about being able to see the stars in the sky for the first time when the power was out for like 2 or 3 days in Midtown Manhattan and Lower Manhattan, where there's like always lights on, and people who are living in like, you know, high rises and stuff like that are never have seen stars as kids. And so like that was kind of a memorable thing, and people weren't sleeping and they didn't want to like take their eyes off. Just so different without electricity. So I don't know. That was just sort of, I think, a little bit of the inspiration behind that.
It's awesome.
But it's also really tuning, so now I'm going to tune it just a little bit. So I'm going to do one more, and then turn it over to Alex. Is it all right if I call you Alex? I need to introduce yourself as differently.
No, that's good. You can call me Alex. Go by anything. Alexandra, Alex, AJ, all of the above.
There you go. She's like, whatever works. I had such delusions of grandeur about having another guitar strung and ready to go, but so I didn't have to do that. But not to be. We'll be ready here in 1 second. So this is a song that I think one of the hardest groups I was hit, like in a way, was musicians during, of course, the pandemic, and because already losing out on all CD sales and having to change complete revenue models, and then not being able to travel and to be able to do shows and all that. And it's been hard, and I think it's still, with people still just sort of like slowly opening up, it's just getting back. So I will do, just to spread some word about one of my favorite songwriters, a guy named Ellis Paul, who is just a fabulous, I think he's the best songwriter in the country in my generation. Just a great folk singer songwriter, and he travels around, and I know he was pretty hip, but like so many people are, I had to change everything. So he and I've written some songs together, but I'm going to do one of his called Martyr's Lounge. So. This is an Ellis Paul song called Martyr's Lounge. Leo's is the club up in heaven, all the martyrs hang out. Gandhi staggers in with John Lennon. Start a bar fight, no doubt. When you lead, we follow. When you bleed, the masses feel your pain. Plant your seed, planting sunflowers growing inside of brains. Whoa, whoa. Now Jesus don't need no introduction. He's got a famous old man and a party for 12. I see Cobain as well. He's with the angels that fell, the local touring bar band. When you need, we follow. When you bleed, the masses feel your pain. Plant your seed, planting sunflowers that are growing inside out. JFK, Joan and Gord, sitting in a corner kissing in the dark. Marilyn Monroe, Jacques Cousteau, talk about the sharks we used to know. Hey, yeah, oh, 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 oh. When you bleed, we follow. When you bleed, So that song's called Martyrs Lounge by Ellis Paul. You go to ellispaul.com, look him up on Facebook. He's got an amazing Patreon. If anybody's who watches this is like they want to take songwriting lessons or they want to get their kids involved in that, he is just a brilliant educator and teacher too. So check him out and check out all sorts of touring musicians. So those are my three. I cannot wait to hear Alex. I'm probably going to go on mute so I can tune and not distract for a second.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm just going to do a few covers today. I'm going to start with some Fleetwood Mac. Now here you go again. You say you want your freedom. Well, who am I to keep you down? It's so hard for you to play the way you feel it, but listen carefully to the sound of your loneliness, like a heartbeat drives you mad. The stillness of remembering what you had, what you lost, what you had, oh, what you lost. 'Cause thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. I said women, they will come and they will go. And when the rain washes you clean, you'll know. Now here I go again, I see the crystal changes. I keep my visions to myself. It's only me who wants to wrap around your dreams. And have you any dreams you like to sell? Dreams of loneliness, like a heartbeat drives you mad. In the stillness of remembering what you had and what you lost, what you had, ooh, what you lost. 'Cause thunder only happens when it's raining. And players only love you when they're playing. I said women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you'll know. You'll know. Oh, you know. I love Fleetwood Mac so much.
That tone is on point.
Thank you.
Your voice was so good. I mean, I love your dynamics, but I mean, your voice is so like, I love that song, and I think you did fabulous. My girlfriend on here was like,
"Get it, girl! Get it, girl!" I was like, "Oh, yes."
It's just driving off. Great.
I think one of the first songs I ever learned on guitar was a Fleetwood Mac song. Hands down, best decision ever. All right, I'm gonna hop into another one. This is I don't know how big she is now. Her name is ZZ Ward. She's got the most like soulful, jazzy voice ever. Love her to death. So go check her out if you feel like it. don't need another taste of your lips to know I'm home. When you're lying here like this, the world could end today. The sun could just fall here in this bed we made with tape from it all. When nobody believes me, I know you will. When nobody can reach me, I know you will. When nobody can please me, I know you will. Oh, you get me, you get me home. You get me, you get me home. With you, I know I'm home. We don't need my Father to give his blessing. We don't match on paper, but it don't mean nothing. When all my walls cave in, you pull me through it. When there's a gun at me, you take a bullet. When nobody believes me, I know you will. When nobody can reach me, I know you will. When nobody can please me, I know you will. Oh, you get me, you get me. Oh, you get me, you get me. Oh, with you I know I'm home. That's a really, really old song. I think she got famous off of, it's called 365. She was like on the radio when I was like 12. 365 days you've been making me wait. It's such a big song, and then she just disappeared. Good old one-hit wonder. All right, so I'm gonna let you choose in between another Fleetwood Mac song or a Dixie Chicks Traveling Soldier.
Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Oh, Fleetwood Mac.
Take my love and I take it down. Climb the mountain and I turn around. And I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hill, where the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Oh, well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. But time makes me bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. So I take my love and I take it down. And if you climb a mountain and you turn around, and if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hill, where the landslide brought me down. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hill, where the landslide brought me down, the landslide will bring you down. That is
Get it, girl.
favorite songs ever. Can I do one more?
Of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this is the first song I ever learned on the guitar. It was probably not the greatest decision for the first song to learn because it's all finger picking, but it's kind of where I got my guitar style. So everyone knows this one. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. The baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Well, maybe there's a God above, but all I ever learned from love was how to shoot at someone who outgrew ya. It's not a cry you can hear at night. It's not someone who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 Thank you.
Hallelujah.
No,
That was amazing.
Hallelujah.
No, that was really good.
Thank
Wow.
you so much.
Pitch perfect.
Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for having me, and I will definitely be back in the future when you guys have another open mic, because I
Yeah.
definitely want to join again, and I'll do some originals next time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for coming on. I don't know if you're bouncing out, but if you're not, I want to tell both you and Chris that we're gonna send you guys some swag for coming on. Yeah. So I'll get in contact with you guys, get your addresses and
Yeah.
shirt sizes and all that. Yeah, we'll get you guys some swag.
Yes, I'm super excited. Thank you again, and it was awesome to meet you, Chris. I definitely want to link up on social media and get his info too, so we can maybe make some music in the future.
Oh, that'd be fabulous. I was sitting here thinking about that. I was like, I've got a couple songs that I would love to send to you. I was like, 'cause your voice
Yes!
is amazing. I was like,
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely here for it. Your guitar skills are amazing. Your writing skills are amazing. Your music is amazing. I love it.
oh, thank you so much.
Have a great evening, guys.
You too. Thank you for coming on, Alex.
Wow.
The The good vibes are out tonight.
They really are. That's such a solid vibe to go on. It's just like as close to a mic drop musically as I think you get. I mean, it's like so good. This song I wrote a long time ago with a couple of friends of mine. Again, Ellis Paul and Don Conicetti. The song is called "Drink Another Round." Carol woke up this morning, one pillow on the bed, one toothbrush in the bathroom where there should be two instead. She's getting dressed for Monday like every Monday that came before, but nobody left the coffee on. There's just one cup to pour. Drink another round, drink another round, drink another round for me. If you raise your glass to the ceiling, you can raise it in my memory. Drink another round, drink another round, drink another round for me. Is the glass half full or empty? Is the liquid the only remedy? Is the liquid the only remedy? Scotty got lit like a rocket, he should have gone home instead. When he finally finished falling, found himself in the wrong bed. Now he's stuck in morning traffic, excuses swimming in his head. When he gets home late that evening, found a candle and a note. And every drink another round, drink another round, drink another round for me. If you raise your glass to the ceiling, you can raise it in my memory. Drink another round, drink another round, drink another round for me. Is the glass half full or empty? Is the liquid the only remedy? Is the liquid the only remedy? Drink another round, drink another round, drink another round for me. If you raise your glass to the ceiling, you can raise it in my memory. Drink another round, drink another round, drink another round for me. Is the glass half full or empty? Is the liquid the only remedy? Is the liquid the only remedy? Is the liquid the only remedy? So the song's called "Drink Another Round." Boy, I'm getting that like getting way low, and the next song's gonna have to be way down here. I'm gonna have to do it in that voice too. Smoking off camera. It's a family show. Believe me, I can't wait for the date later. I will. Absolutely. I don't care, Mark.
America.
Margaret. So I love like writing stories and stuff, and like, or just like, writing songs about people what do you love, all those sorts of things. I wrote this amazing song one day and I was sleeping, and I was like, and when she woke up, she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Come here, you gotta see this. You gotta sit down." It was like, the song is called "Try Not to Fall Apart." People say, people have said for years, and there's no easy way to show the ones you love the way you love them. But I'm gonna try. I lie awake, getting contemplating, grateful for the faithful turn of time. Fill my mind, and I can't for the life of me find enough words for this feeling. You gotta settle for this song, and there's no way to describe to you all the ways I adore you. Gotta pick a place to start. Try not to fall apart. I'm trying to paint a picture in my brain and illustrate the colors and patterns under the cover. Backs me up, and I lose every time you run in my mind. If I had a dime for every time you've been tired, I'd be a trillionaire. And I can't for the life of me find enough for this feeling. Gotta settle for this song, and there's no way describe to you all the ways I adore you. I gotta pick a place to start, and try not to fall apart. Daydreams in the shade, the clouds take the shape of your face, and I can't for the life of me find enough for this feeling. You gotta settle for this song, and there's no way to describe to you all the ways I adore you. I gotta pick a place to start, and try not to fall apart. Try not to fall apart. Try not to fall apart. That's all called. Thank you. The song's called "Try Not to Fall Apart." We got time for one more, you think, before you're?
Yeah, one, two, three, however many you want to do.
That is a dangerous proposition, man. Trying to remember what it was. Ooh, I wouldn't do that to anybody. I found the villain. Well, I was down in the New Amsterdam, staring at this yellow-haired girl. Mr. Jones strikes up a conversation. Black hair, mango dancing. She dances while Father plays guitar. She's suddenly beautiful, and we all want something beautiful. Man, I wish I was beautiful. Sha la 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 la. So I call on Maria, show me some of them Spanish dancing, and pass me a bottle, Mr. Jones. Believe in me, help me believe in anything, 'cause I wanna be someone who believes. It's Mr. Jones and me. Mr. Jones and me. Oh, I forgot to play the song. Terrible in the middle of it. I forgot to play the song. I totally spaced on that song. I am so sorry. How embarrassing. I'm going to do a different one. How embarrassing. We play that song forever. And I just played it. Sorry about that, man. How embarrassing. He's like, you ruined the show.
No, sir.
Any bit of Mr. Jones is good.
Yeah, well, no, that was just bad. All right, I'll do one more after that embarrassment right there. So this one's called Sister Sarah. I wrote this a long time ago. Looking out the window, up here on the 22nd floor, I bet I've seen some things that you've never seen before. I've seen a blind man walk, crippled speaking, deaf man talk. Don't be, and night is your best friend. Tiny bottles on the tiny little shelves, like little people. They grow from seeds, weeds to shells. See how they run across the city streets, and they look so long. Nights get so cold, I curl up in a ball. Sweet Sister Sarah. Sweet Sarah. So goodbye, she said, and she threw
Bible in his head and said, belief is only something you had in the past. I've stolen rings and things from lion cubs and thieves and kings. Barefoot and snowflakes makes the sunlight go away. Sweet Sister Sarah. Sweet Sister Sarah. Morning and night, you know I think they look the same, like poets in a puzzle. They'll break the rules and play the game. So here's to heaven and hell I've been to, both and I live to tell tonight. Oh, I feel like in a ball. Sweet Sister Sarah. Sweet Sister Sarah. Sweet Sister Sarah.
So song's
Thank you,
called
Chris.
Sister Sarah.
You're a very talented songwriter. Like I'm seriously blown away.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me do a few songs. And Alex's voice was amazing, and her guitar playing is fabulous. So
Same with you. Same with you. Don't sell yourself short, man.
no, man,
Um,
this was great.
Yeah, that was awesome. This was a great night. Good vibes. You had mentioned before we get into the debate topic, maybe taking a little break.
Yeah, I'm good for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whichever it is. I'm good for. You want to keep it rolling? I just need probably 5 or 10.
Okay, yeah, we could take a quick break. I'll just put up an intermission banner, and then we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes.
That sounds good.
Thank you again so much.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. This is outstanding, and I'm so looking forward to what's coming up next. But this is awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank
And
you.
thank you, Destiny, too, for co-hosting and promoting too. Thank you so much.
You are amazing. So it is great to have such amazing talent on here. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. See you in a few.
Okay.
I want my service.
How you doing? Fuck you, fucking fuck.
That is an awesome shirt.
Isn't it? I was thinking it was Sean more. Not just the fuck you is enough, though, isn't it?
Fuck you, you fucking fuck.
One of my new favorite lines is "Get fucked, stay fucked."
I have a prop.
Hey, you gotta rock the beanies.
Oh shit, you guys! I just had to wash this dog. Lotto, give me the toy. She got in the pond and came home stinking. Worse than a child.
All right, so how's everybody doing tonight? We're still waiting for Chris, but how are y'all?
I'm great.
Good.
I've got like 4 devices here.
You do like multiple cams, get all
I don't know what the
angles.
fuck I'm doing.
All right. Just go with the flow. You'll do fine.
Sure.
It's very laid back.
I guess I'm Nathan tonight. No camera.
What do you use, like a laptop or what?
I'm on a Mac and it's called Camo. It's a app that uses my phone camera, but for
Yeah.
some reason it's not working tonight at all.
I've got an iPhone, an iPad, a laptop I don't know nothing about. And I can hook it all up to the TV, but I think this is enough.
I mean, you're coming in crystal clear, so
Well, that's good. I don't know. Maybe it didn't. You know, I almost had sunglasses too to go with the beanie, but I didn't.
hey, you gotta rock the beanie when you can. The beanie's a whole vibe.
Hang on. Are people watching this, or is it just us?
Right now it's just us. People will probably start popping in a little bit.
Okay. Tell me who I am.
Here we go.
I know. Let me get it on.
If I sit right here, okay, I see. Are you sure?
You may not know it because you don't like this kind of music.
I like all kinds of music.
Okay, so you see the gold chain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Let's see. Notorious FAG. Yeah. I'm starving too.
Justin, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Are you?
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Let's get it. Let's get the show on the road. So for this, we're debating. It's essentially the separation of church and state, but I wanted to kind of expand on that a little bit. And really, what it is the separation of religion and government. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it seems like a lot of politics these days is derived on people's religious beliefs. So I just wanted to. I think we're all probably going to agree a little bit to that it should be separated, but maybe we can just kind of talk about it where we see it's a problem and why that distinct separation should exist. So personally, I believe that it should exist because what I personally believe religiously shouldn't affect the laws of the land. So just because I believe, and I'm not saying this is my actual belief, but maybe I believe that abortions shouldn't be legal because that's a soul, and we shouldn't condone killing souls, right? So because I believe that, I don't think that it should necessarily be the law, because that might not be what somebody else believes. And I know that there's certain religions that believe that a human soul isn't a soul until it takes its first breath outside of the womb. So, you know, if and ultimately, I mean, it's a much more complicated issue than that, just that. But I don't know. That's just kind of where I stand with it.
Are you talking about abortion?
We're just that's just like an example of one of the things that the religious right will use. Abortions, gay marriage is another one that they usually use religion for, to say that it shouldn't be
Yeah.
legal. You see it so many of the so much of the right, they get their support from evangelical Christians, Catholics, Baptists, and I honestly thought it was kind of funny in this last election cycle. We had an actual religious person, Joe Biden, going against Donald Trump, and for some reason, the religious right united behind Donald Trump, which I thought was kind of odd because he, I mean, if you look at the 7 deadly sins, I think he commits all of them. Maybe not murder, but he's definitely a glutton. He cheats on his wives. Shit, I'm losing my thought. But
Greed.
anyways, he's greedy. He's greedy.
All
Where
of
he
them.
murdered everybody with each of those 7 deadly sins.
He does not epitomize what it means to be religious, I guess is what I'm saying. Where we had the other guy who actually goes to church and he doesn't use it as a prop. And for some reason he was the satanic occultist.
One reason only is evangelicals. It's abortion. They want judges appointed to get rid of abortion, and that's why they voted for him. And he got 3. And so that was the only reason. I mean, they knew he wasn't a saint. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot not to know that. But they did. They voted for him for conservative judges.
So there was people that actually believed that Donald Trump was picked by God and Jesus himself to run this country, to save us from the Obama ages.
That's the same people that found the magic salamander under the rock. I mean, those are the ones that grab up snakes on Sunday. But yeah, Trump is the savior. That's insane. That's scary even.
To support somebody that has probably broken at least 9 of the 10 commandments.
Right. I mean, I know that you guys aren't religious at all, and
eat the babies.
And I grew up in the Episcopal Church, so Episcopal Church is way different than any of I guess all of them. But so I know what the teachings of Episcopalians, but I wasn't religious. But I will tell you that if you spend like 10 days in the emergency intensive care unit at a level 1 trauma center, you'll change your mind. I mean, not that. I mean, you'll hope that there's a God and an afterlife if you go through some of the shit I had to go through. So, I look at it. I don't know. The Episcopalians, it's a very liberal religion it comes from the Anglican Church. It's the Anglican Church in America. So, but and then the older that you get, like I think women should have the right to choose. I support abortion completely, but I did happen to be in a circumstance that changed my mind morally over that. I went with some friends we're taking this girl to Atlanta. It was like the last day for a legal abortion, right? Because her and her boyfriend, they'd gone back and forth and back and forth. And he wanted her to have it, and she didn't want to have it. And so, whatever it is, if it's like 6 months, then she was pregnant 5 months and 30 days or whatever. So you had to go to Atlanta to get one. And so we take her there, and we're on the way back. Nobody was saying anything. This chick looks over at him, and she says, "It was a boy." I mean, he wanted the child. She didn't. But I mean, just the cold-heartedness of her to say that to him, it still just gives me chills, because it was like, man, she used that way wrong. That's, in my opinion, that's, I don't know. That is really, I mean, so I support it. It's just, I don't know. Does that make any sense?
So for some people, they support it. For other people, like they support another woman's right to choose, but it's not something that they would choose to do. And that's kind of like, that's kind of my like, that's how I stand on it. Like, it's not something that, like if I was married, if my wife and I would have a discussion, I just actually got out of a marriage. So, in our marriage, that was something that we decided that wasn't right for us. But if that's, what another woman wants to do, that's ultimately her choice. It's a decision between her and her doctor. It has nothing to do with it has no place in politics at all.
I agree with that totally. Totally agree.
So, as I was listening to what you were saying, there were kind of like some separate issues that I think are overlapping. And I think maybe this is like a Venn diagram. I'm going to get a whiteboard in a second, because my head's going, like, because there are three like sort of outer rings of the Venn diagram of separation of church and state, which is one issue, but that immediately bled over to abortion, like immediately, without like the implications of like the rest of the things about the separation of church and state. Like it's like almost like a direct thing. And then the third big whiteboard, or excuse me, the third big sort of outer ring on the overlapping Venn would be tribalism. And it's something one of my friends from way back in college, he and I reconnected on Facebook, and I've been following him for a while. He's brilliant. His name's James Parker. He's in one of our sub groups, I think. And he wrote a lot about tribalism, and that general concept like really kind of opened my eyes to like think about some things differently. And it explains why it kind of, tribalism itself kind of explains a little bit why we had 8 years of fiscal responsibility and libertarian-ish, the Ron Paul libertarians kind of marching with Republicans and the Tea Party, and they immediately spent more than the Democrats, and they immediately, they increased spending to, Obama was like $9 trillion just under that administration, $9 trillion in 8 years, and then Trump administration $7.8 trillion in 4 years. So, but not a peep, because tribalism, you just have to like kind of follow, and it's just like it's tied a little bit with religion. Of like, well, you're just, because that's the way you grew up. There's a lot of people that are just, that's because your mama told you that way. That's just, why do you believe in this particular God? Why do you believe in this sort of thing? Because your mama told you that, or somebody like an early influence. So you got three issues: separation of church and state, abortion, and tribalism. And I think we're kind of bleeding, and each one could almost be its own, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and because there's other issues with separation of church and state.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I have a Jefferson fetish, and like, it's like in a creepy way.
At least you're honest about it.
I'm serious. Like, it's one of many, but I'm just saying, like, but that's definitely one of them. But to know that, again, like some of the origins, I lost a bet. I grew up for the majority of my life thinking that the separation of church and state was in the Constitution somewhere. So much where I bet, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not. Like it's actually not in the Constitution. So it's, but we think it is because of Jefferson's other writings. And it was really him writing to church members, even though he was a deist, not necessarily Christian, to say that they were going to keep the government out of the church versus the church influenced the government. You know what I mean? So we've adopted these sorts of things.
So if you don't mind me interjecting a little bit. So my whole understanding of the reason why they wanted separation of church and state when they had originally drafted the Constitution was because, and I know it's not in the Constitution, but the idea behind it was because back in England, they the Church of England,
Anglican Church.
What it's direct, like that was the government, and they believed that if you were king or queen or prince, or if you were part of the royal family, you were directly chosen from God, and whatever you said went. And that's how it was, because you were chosen from God and nobody could question it. And that's kind of my understanding of like how they came up with that idea.
That's why
and
they got
the reason why it should be separated.
Isn't that why they got in the Mayflower and sailed over here in the first place? I mean, really, because they didn't want to be under Henry VIII, right? Or they want the Anglican Church. I mean, Henry VIII is the one that broke from the Pope and formed the Anglican Church. Before that, everybody was Catholic, and they wouldn't give Henry VIII a divorce, and so he broke with the Pope and formed the Anglican Church. But yeah, you're right about in England, you're either Anglican or not, or at the time, and so that's why the Pilgrims came here, was to get away from that. They didn't want to be Anglican, and so I guess that's my understanding. Is that yours, Chris?
Oh yeah, and you had different societies because of the different colonies. You had the Northeast, which was puritanical, and so the John Adams type folks, from the Northeast, were the ones who were deeply, what we would call a Christian or close to that right now. There's not as much in the southern states. I mean, it was definitely there.
Madison and Jefferson were both Southern.
Right, and Jefferson was a deist.
Right.
He acknowledged a higher power. He wasn't a Christian.
Freedom of religion is not in the Constitution. I mean, it's the establishment calls. It's
which says you can't have a national religion.
Right. Make no law respecting an establishment of establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Right, which means you can do whatever you want. Again, the Constitution's a restraining order on the government. So it's all saying about what we're allowed to do, right? And what they're not going to be able to stop us for. So people are able to gather how they want, they're able to practice whatever religion, and there's not going to be a national religion.
They didn't want it to be funded.
I'm an agnostic atheist. So I'm not trying to say that we should, but I'm also looking at, if I'm being fair, what's in the Constitution or not. Like, I'm a big 10th Amendment guy to say, well, that's there, that's not there. But it's like, there are things you have to be able to say now, like, should 51% people be able to push those kinds of values? That's our system that we look at always amending. But all of those things that you were saying about different dynasties and how families came to power was violence, but also persuasion. Why did religion take off in certain areas? It made sense. People were selling those sorts of things. Another time they came with liberty. Another time they came with land ownership. And that's, who's ever persuading at the time, and then sometimes the strongest. But it goes to tribalism again. And that's just how you identify, right? You're just in that. So why do all Republicans sort of the abortion issue is, it somehow becomes so defining to people, even though a president doesn't have any power over something like that at all, right? The closest thing is appointing a Supreme Court justice.
Right.
But they all show out with all of these rulings. You can see with Gorsuch, you can see Justice Barrett. They don't all rule on these extreme party lines. I mean, we we had a SCOTUS that was 8-1 Republican in 1991 and 1992. And Roe versus Wade wasn't overturned then.
Yeah.
We should always be fearful of like never going backtrack on rights, but there's also this like fear mongering machine from the tribalists. It's like, gotta have this person because they're direct report. It's like that's not even anybody's purview in politics.
But
Do you
to be
do you remember back in the 80s, Chris, when at like high school football games, things like that, an issue came up with like should they be able to say a prayer before like a football game? And since the school is funded by the state, some said yes and some say no. It went before the Supreme Court, but I don't remember how it came out. Do you remember that issue? You know, because that's the separation in church and state. Like the state can't fund like a parochial school.
Yeah, I think it was some ruling. I believe I could be proven wrong on this, but from what I always believed, that it was something like private schools were able to do that, but publicly funded schools were not because you could fall under the establishment of like you're taking even. So then they all switched to moment of silence as a compromise. Another issue that got like blown way out of proportion. People turned them into moments of silence.
It's a shame that the First Amendment had so much in it. You know, the Establishment Clause, free speech, assembly, petition the government for redress. And then the Second Amendment is the one issue. You know, I mean, the First Amendment it should be 5 amendments or something. There's so much things involved in it, you know.
We can say what we want. We can throw crap at the government and do what we want. They can't arrest us for it on public property.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's like that's you know, I mean, practice any religion. You should be able to do that. It's true freedom of speech. It's not freedom of consequence or like going after somebody individually. It's again what the government can't legally, you know, arrest you for and try to prosecute you for. And then, of course, it all gets litigated out. Money is speech, or you know, whatever else you know defines out that way. But I don't know. It's always pretty clear. I'm just like go with what we have. I don't think anybody does for the most part, but I'm a go with what we have. Like freedom of speech, pro-choice. I'm a libertarian, so we definitely believe that it's you know. Oh, sorry, I have some visitors.
I got a visitor underneath me too.
At a party platform level, it's pretty much the idea of government shouldn't be, you know, intervening in the personal choices of individuals. So it doesn't have to necessarily be pro-choice or, you know, pro-life, quote unquote. It's just that, you know, government doesn't have a role. Then you have people with different interpretations. It's like, okay, does that mean federal government doesn't, but state governments do? Because that's always the risk of the downside. Like I don't want government. I don't want federal government involved at all. Downside risk. So I'm just trying because I think we're all mostly pro-choice here. So or maybe I could be mistaken.
No, I think we're all singing out of the same hymn book.
So the risk is this: the 10th Amendment says anything that's not written above or falling under the purview of the first, you know, previous 9 is the purview of the state.
Yeah.
It's not free speech and government redress, Second Amendment, you know, storing troops, spying, due process, all those sorts of things. It goes back to the state. I'm pro-choice. The risk, though, is that because abortion then isn't clearly called out as a constitutional issue, you have to figure out if it comes down to property rights, which is why I think it is where it is today, because people own their bodies, and so I hate to demoralize it, but that's how I think legally it comes out as a property rights thing. I think that you have the risk is not my position. The risk is states can then move in and say, under the 10th Amendment, it's not clearly called out in the Constitution, but that gives us the power to be able to do so.
Which is what we're starting to see.
The Mississippi case. Yeah, the Mississippi case. I think Alabama, both of those cases, they've like completely banned abortion. And so I think the Supreme Court is hearing that, or supposed to be hearing it soon. That
right. Personal pet peeve. I hate when people project their own values on the Supreme Court justices. And believe me, I have like way many bones to pick with with Brett Kavanaugh because of like Patriot Act and rulings and stuff like that. But these people are like professionals of like are either teachers or they have come up and they've clerked with like other Supreme Court justices and like written opinions on circuit courts and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, well, they're just going to vote for like whatever the abortion issue. And it's like, it's kind of disrespectful to the like level of education and professionalism to get to that level to sit there and go, oh, they're just making a simple decision the way that you do versus their test. You know what I mean? I just think you got to like look at it from whatever the case is.
I think the reason why people feel that way, in particular about the Supreme Court, is because when you look at Congress, they always fall on the party line. And I agree with you that they have let justice prevail and they haven't allowed the party lines to kind of sway how they're going to vote on an issue. But I think that I believe that the hesitancy and the skepticism that people have is because so much in politics we do see that. We see, okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if it's a conservative bill that normally conservatives would vote yes on, but if a Democrat is the one that presents it, they automatically vote no. And that's
tribalism, right?
That's the tribalism. And
right.
that's kind of what we've seen happen the last 20 years. And it's just gotten progressively worse and worse. And luckily, yes, the Supreme Court has, they haven't allowed the tribalism to take over. But overall,
the bias is as soon as there is an issue that goes that way, the first excuse is always tribalism because they didn't vote the way that I think they should have without actually looking at the legal cases. And there could be issues in there, but I'm just like, it's always a gut reaction. It's like a societal thing, just sort of like, because there's a tribalism thing that happens, people divide this way. And it's really crazy. It's like, so you can't really abolish it. It's part of our history and how we evolved, right? Like everybody was tribes. Like it has always just been, there's always got to be, it's like an offset or something. There's always, got to be something else. So I don't really know. Or I guess the issue is then to promote publicly the leveling of a playing field of allowing more tribe, which means that you get some more consensus because you've got to do coalition building. I forget how many political parties are. I think there were 3 or 4 majors in Canada, but then there are several third parties. UK has 3 major parties and several minor parties. We have this forced choice of 2 versus like, what if there were 5 or 6 parties that were represented? It's hard to think that truly that
it really is.
A Christian conservative is in the same party as somebody who is like just an uber ultra, like just the lowest tax possible fiscal conservative, versus like the same person who's like a hardcore, Green or Bernie Sanders, like a proper, not an insult, democratic socialist, like looking at the establishment of Joe Biden and his record of like how he, played into that. It's hard when people have to like find these band together like that. So I think we should have more. And then there have to be like, people have to work together for like compromise. I think it's a slow, ugly process, but like, it's probably better than what we have right now. People don't think it's different.
I'm pretty sure Germany has like 6 or 7 parties represented in their parliament and within their government. And I'm actually all for that. I think there should be a progressive party. There should be a Democratic Party, a Republican Party, and a Libertarian Party. Because if you look at the way people kind of believe, the way people have their belief systems set up, that's kind of how it shakes out. And it would probably be an even split between all of them if you think about it. I mean, even Bernie and Joe Biden were so like I don't even want to get into that topic because they cheated Bernie twice, but there's enough with.
I know you are a Bernie bro.
Oh, go ahead. The tribalism effect during the election, there was only 3 people who could have actually mathematically won, right? Trump, Biden, and Joe Jorgensen. She was on ballot in every state and could get 270 electoral votes, but she wasn't there. And like the rhetoric out of these other camps of like Joe Biden being sent, being the devil, and on the other side, Trump representing some sort of Nazism, and crazy rhetoric that's like, you know, super extreme and like way out, even out of line in my opinion. But you know, with these extreme views of having to like try to coalesce versus like having multiple parties, because they just the tribalism, they have to go, you know, kind of fight each other on it.
I
And
mean,
it's just, like, it becomes brutal, and it has nothing to do with policy. It just has to do with like not being the other person because of identity.
I mean, we've seen that in definitely the last two elections. You heard so many people say, "Well, I had to pick one. I had two choices, and I had to pick this one or that one." And like, how did like?
Dems thought that Donald Trump is like not all, so I'm not trying to be all, but there was definitely a group, loud group. I'm not saying majority or, but there was a definitely loud group that would say, like, again, he's like Nazi or representing that sort of fascism. Then you would go, okay, well, if there's only 3 candidates who can mathematically win, and she's being excluded from debates, wouldn't you literally want anybody else? Like, if your candidate didn't win, that there should be somebody else that would be between that person and this like extreme fascism? It's like, oh, but no. And then the same thing. It's like, well, if this person doesn't win and Joe Biden's from the devil, like, wouldn't you want there to be another chance in there? And they're like, yeah, they're the worst ever. Not to, but no, we have to just make it between these two. And it's like, there's this tribalist instinct. So I think all those separations those issues are separate. Destiny, we've totally not heard from you. What do you think about this?
Somewhere from cleaning the house. She does this. Like,
What happened?
What?
Oh, I was asking you. I said, we haven't heard from you. There was like literally some like separation of church and state and then abortion issues, and like 3 people with like the wrong wing first. And it's like, total like typical like, again, like white male bitch move. Why start there? It's, I mean, for real, like we just did that. Subconsciously, we all seem like absolute, like, you know, regular, like people, but like think about that. And I did it myself too. Destiny, what do you think? Jesus, like.
I think it's a scary time right now because Roe v. Wade is literally on the chopping block with the Supreme Court right now. And with all these states wanting to pass these extreme laws against abortion and like miscarry laws, it's scary to be a woman in this country right now, because you can make abortion illegal. It's not going to go away. People will get abortions and they will be unsafe and more women will die. So these super religious people shoving this, you know, through the system, they just don't understand what they're doing.
No, they very well know what they're doing. That's what I was talking about with Mississippi. That's the case that's before the Supreme Court, is the Mississippi abortion ruling. That's what they're supposed to hear this session. And you're right. It's like 12 weeks or something. I mean, it's you know, it's crazy. But what is it? The Heritage Foundation that okay, all of the Supreme Court justices that Trump got approved. And Chris, you were talking about how they clerk for, you know, the way that they go to school and then make their way up. But then you have the conservative judges that go through, like, I think it's the Heritage Foundation. Is it the Heritage Foundation?
No, I mean, they're definitely a political think tank. I don't know if that's probably something that, you know, public policy groups and all that are funded by, you know, bills and consulting fees by the political parties, you know, all that kind of stuff. All those consultants on K Street, that's all those things are. So they may have affiliations, they may have written papers for, because a lot of times they'll just, you know, publish a lot of thought leadership. Here's how a conservative would think this. And again, there's evolving conservative views, because so much of that stuff, like was written in the National Review or from the Heritage Foundation, was your typical, you know, there would be some social conservatism, but there's more fiscal conservatism, right? So I think that's like, you know, I think that's what's shifting right now, because now you're seeing more of a shift. I mean, Trump even said when he was running, he was going to try to make it a workers' party. He pulled a caucus of Democratic voters that were labor and union, you know, to some overcross, because however he did it, he connected there. So, that's a little bit of a shift towards a workers' party and labor, which is a different message. And it kind of wobbles the Dems a little bit. So I mean, now it's in their court and Biden connected back here too. But so it will be interesting to see how they kind of work together on that issue.
Something I want to bring up is I've noticed a lot of conservatives, religious, they get very upset that religion has been taken out of public schools. Since we've taken prayer out of school, look at how horrible the youth is today, and they're having sex and taking drugs, and I don't ever remember religion being in school, so I don't know where they're getting this idea that there ever was forced religion in public schools.
You're in Minnesota?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm in Alabama, and I can tell you it was very much in the school. And that's the people, for the most part, that are saying we need God back in the school. That's insane. Someone in one of the groups that we're in had made the statement that we need God back in the school. And I said, what God? I said, are you going to let teachers throughout the country teach your kid about God? Well, how do you know what your son's teacher is? Is she Catholic? Is she Jewish? Is she, Mormon? You can't have that. You can't have teachers doing that. Send your kid to parochial school.
And these same people are the ones that will argue against sex education. I don't want teachers teaching my children sex education, but I'll let them teach religion. How does that work?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
the system is messed up. I'm glad I don't have kids.
Well, these are federal rhetorical issues that people think we're like battling because nobody really wants to learn about, I think, like the real public policy stuff that's going on. Again, it's like we're shooting at these values of like phantom values, like religion at the state level. It's like, no, there's really not been, for the most part, federal government pushing religion through there. It's been some school districts, Alabama, Texas, wherever, not teaching evolution, as an underpinning sometimes. And it's like teachers are still professional, even if they're religious, you know what I mean? And just like in the non-religious ones. But I think that, again, like we shine a spotlight on it. It's like, look what's happening. We got to get it back. And people would say the Pledge of Allegiance. And then some districts are being sensitive about, they don't want to say, the under God piece. And they go, okay,
that was added in the 50s, right? One Nation Under God was added in the 50s, right? To the Pledge of Allegiance.
To fight godless communism. We added it in 1954, so it existed there before, but
Yeah, it's interesting too because so many of these religious people want to push their religion on everyone through law. Yes. But who gets to pick and choose which religions we, follow? Because there are so many vast religions and, freedom of religion. So I guarantee you, if you start saying, well, let's pass some Muslim type laws, they would be like, oh, no, not that kind of religion.
That's the point I was trying to make.
It's just Judeo-Christian that they want in schools. They don't want any of the other religions, especially imagine trying to
no, not that God. We don't want that God.
No. Carter, I just saw you chime in there. Is exactly what you're talking about, tribalism. That's the same thing. It's like which of those sets of values. And it's not even a value statement because most people are like together. It's probably just these like fractional issues that divide when it comes to it. But it's like, should it be in public schools? I don't know. I don't think so. But I also think it should constitutionally be up to the states and be up to their local districts. Do I personally want it in there? No. Do I think you can have a government law like sort of, ban it at a federal level? Like, I don't know. There's some things that are constitutional in there. So And I don't
If
like
you leave it up to
anything
the-
I've advocated for, but it's like I think realistically there's a fight there that other people have.
So my
And
thing
I'm
is,
not
I would
just sort of like
I can agree with you to some extent that maybe like we could allow the states to make these decisions on their own. However, I wouldn't be comfortable with that until gerrymandering is taken care of. Once that's taken care of, then okay, let the states decide. But until then, it's not a true representation of the beliefs within a state when you have all these districts so gerrymandered.
oh, I agree. That's a horrible thing for the way that people just like steal votes and influence like that.
if we let the states decide, are you telling me that you don't think that Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina let them have slaves? I mean that you know what I'm saying? I mean if it was left up to the states, I mean shit. I mean it's so conservative down here. I mean
I mean I think that's a stretch, but I've definitely heard that position.
well, I mean,
before.
yes, a stretch, but you know, you have to take it to the.
No, I think I would address it from my own, like I can't speak for anybody else, but here would be, I think, the way that my values would come there. The first thing that we're talking about here is, as horrible as all that is, we're talking about there still has to be a value of self-ownership rights, and you own your body, you are your own property, you can't be owned by somebody else. So that's not something that is something that we would say states' rights anymore in a modern context of like it's not the Constitution. Things have been amended in the Constitution, so it's there. Right now, it's there in the amendments to sort of say what is and slavery is actually still there in the prison complex, and that's a different. And then because it says that slavery is only outlawed everywhere else except in prisons, which is probably a great other topic on a whole other rabbit hole. but and not to go down there, but there's a self-ownership right. So no, states' rights does not mean that there would be a comeback to slavery.
Yeah, I didn't mean that.
So what it comes to is that the state simply letting the people decide, and if the state doesn't want to rule, let the communities decide. We shop local, we buy local. We want to make sure that there's still things upheld that are not transgressing protected classes that exist right now, and there's a process to add or take away from those. So that way, we're not making sort of decisions and discrimination at a state, local, federal level based on race, creed, color, gender identity, all of these things. So, but everything else that's not listed in there is probably a state issue.
I for sure could see a huge backslide if we really started pushing religion. I could see, women's right to vote, getting taken away, and women, we want them to be more submissive and, be seen and not heard. And I could see that kind of a thing starting to happen here if we really started pushing the extreme religion into law.
Horribly.
Enter in The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, it's right. It's definitely fair. We have to be mindful of that. Do you think there is a critical mass, objectively, do you think there is a critical mass of not just voters who only represent 30 to 40% of active adults in the country, that there are still plenty of people who don't vote and don't follow it, who when they got wind of that, be like, wait a minute, what? This is still a nation of where we have more guns than people. So it's I stop to think about, take the lens off of just what's in the political spectrum. So I don't think there's a sense of even if there was somebody who was grounded in religion making a values-based decision, which again, I don't disagree with, is there a critical mass that would sit there and go, we're going to repeal women's suffrage? Do we see that? Do you think that's even in the South? I got to tell you, there might be some religious sects that are very small in that. But I mean, you're not going to take a Southern woman's right away to vote. I don't care what party they're in right now. This is the 2020. I mean, there's it's a different culture. We won't allow it. There's enough men that won't allow it either. So I definitely think we should be mindful of it, but it can't be it takes that to me, that takes away from air from what policy decisions are they actually making? We should fight it, but it's I don't think that's anybody's actually threatening that. It's
that there is people with it, yeah, I don't want to like point fingers or anything, but there is people that believe that, you know, a woman's only role in this world is to produce children and take care of the family.
I know they're flat earthers too.
I know, but you know, and some of those people can.
Maps they have, like, is that
But-
the main voting issue? People aren't voting on that issue. That's
No.
horrible, dumb. Like, I laughed at that. Like, I just sit there like,
Oh,
that's what-
honestly, all it would take is like another Trump that would, you know, have those beliefs. You know, once he starts to get that cult to start.
If somebody wants to consent to that relationship between them because we can't stop their religion, right on. It's not causing me any harm. My only issue is when they try to use their religion as a backbone of law, and we have to sort of shout it down. We have to sort of protect against that. To me,
I have a question, Chris. Where are you? Where do you live?
where am I?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, physically, right now I'm just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, in Bentleyville, Ohio. I spent the last 10 years or 12 years in Athens, Georgia.
Oh, no shit.
Was in Ohio here before, so I've been north-south.
So
Why do you ask?
you're huh?
What was that? Why do you ask? I was just sort of like,
Because I don't know. I don't want anything left up to my state. Because have you ever heard of Roy Moore?
right? Oh yeah, the pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Right,
and the one that put the
and the
Ten
people
Commandments.
stood up, and Republicans stood up who were a good. They lived their values that way and fought the tribalism. Again, Parker hat tip once again. Fought stood against the tribalism and how hard those people had to swim against the stream to like stand up against a Roy Moore. But that just means that people have to use their voices and influence others, you know, passionately about things.
But Doug Jones
yeah.
barely won that.
Go ahead.
Doug Jones barely won that election. Even the fact that Roy Moore was a pedophile still didn't stop 48% of Alabama from voting for him.
Look what's happening now with Matt Gaetz. You know, look how many Republicans are quiet about what he did. They don't want to take a stand against a pedophile, and that's disturbing. You know, and back years ago, they would have stood against Roy Moore.
I think there's something to be said about like there's not a lot of facts that are out there right now. There's like people potentially agreeing there might be like I don't think there's enough. Like I don't think anybody wants to like sacrifice their career and go, he's this or he's that. You know what I mean?
He doesn't have charges yet, so it's only speculation at this point. I mean, you know, the guy that he was with is supposedly flipping on him, but you know, we don't know that. But for Roy Moore was the Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court. He got kicked out of that position, and then the state reelected his ass. So don't tell me about what, you know. I mean, yeah, there's some crazy fucks running around here.
So I'm going to say
In this
something
place.
that's totally not like this is. I'm so sorry. Like I do this tongue in cheek, but it's totally not to you directly, but it's to your state.
Oh, no.
Like
I know.
to Alabama, fix your shit.
Thank you.
Literally,
Thank
fix
you.
your shit.
Thank you.
And if
Okay.
not, we'll continue to like people will be there and like what opportunity is going to be there, and you can see. Granted, prices are lower, cost of living is lower because there's less economic opportunity. You have more poverty. What do you see in the southern states? You also see this weird negative or positive correlation between states that are actually receiving more in federal assistance programs and subsidies, and more people on federal welfare programs that are in the South who usually stand up against those sorts of things because there are, there are just poor education, and that starting with poor education sort of like carries on for a long period of time. But I'm so sorry. I feel bad for people. I'm like, but fix your shit and move. Like if somebody's going to be last because that's what you're going to promote from an education standpoint and do that, I'm not going to go in there and like tell a bunch of grown ass people to either change your style of government or the reps that are there, influence other people, or just it's the old Sam Kinison thing. I'm sorry, I'm dating myself with the whole it's sand thing for anybody who's my age. It's like, move to where there's water, like leave. Like there should be like the Republicans are like mocking people leaving California and the big exodus. Then other people should leave and let them do what they want down there. I know it's land of opportunity. Like figure out a way to move and out of there if it sucks. Like and they want to let people vote that way.
But if so I can kind of agree with what you're saying to some extent. But if people just leave, then you're throwing in the towel, taking your ball and going home type of deal. And not only that, but if you care about your beliefs, you're kind of giving more power to whatever the opposition is. So say, I'm just going to use Alabama, for example. Say there's progressives in Alabama and they just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm leaving. Well, then there's no chance of there ever being any sort of progressives in Alabama. And then you're automatically conceding all their all their congressmen, all their representatives and all their senators. And that, you're ultimately giving more power to the opposition. Whereas if you were to stay back and fight, you actually, maybe it's an uphill battle, but maybe down the road you can actually.
You don't have time. They're working, they're parenting, they're taking kids to soccer and little league, and like to go out and raise that. It's unfortunate, and I don't agree with those things. It's like I don't want to like. If anything, we just want whatever systems it was to like maybe change voting so you had, you stop the first past the goalpost sort of thing. Maybe you go to ranked choice, but again,
ranked choice.
Ranked choice, I love it. But states have to adopt it. We can't do federal mandates because states pick. And I think we all have to like, if we try to diagnose and like, how do you get rid of tribalism or at least diminish it? It's like, there's got to be like principle-based values. You can't sit there and go, oh, my team's in charge, so I'm just going to move past the principle of limited government.
And I think
Alabama.
I think moving out of, if you get a large majority of, say, the left to move out of certain states or certain areas that are heavily gerrymandered, you're going to start to see the Electoral College really have power over, the conservatives starting to win elections one right after another because they've, rigged the system for themselves by pushing all the liberals out of those states and taking over.
I couldn't disagree more.
Like maybe Texas, I know, is going through demographic changes. The Republicans lost huge allies in the immigrants, and the immigrant vote who is legalizing because they're natural allies on abortion, natural allies on religion. Usually people are immigrating from very religious countries. So they're kind of like, losing a little bit, but they do have still strong support in some of those communities. So that get overblown. But you have to look at it from a principle standpoint. So I don't think they're going to like try to take, if that happens in Alabama again, let's look at the flip side. If we present it as like a crisis, do you think the Alabamians, and I don't know the difference of their number of electoral votes versus Vermont, like nobody's starting a war in Vermont. The Democrats are up there. Like the Republicans aren't even fear mongering. Like, do we want the rest of everything like Vermont? We get the best ice cream in the world, and they're just like, I swear, it's like a cross between the Wall of Game of Thrones and like Hobbit folk in the mountains. But they're all peaceful and looking to eat the next meal and like have outdoor bonfires. And it's like, if Alabama wants to do the opposite, so they go in a country of like 50 states, with limited federal government principles, it's like, how much is Alabama really going to, even if they're with South Carolina and Mississippi? Okay, great. There's your 12 electoral votes or whatever. California, New York. Yeah.
But they still have they have two senators. It's equal for all. So
it's meant to be a grind on purpose. So it's like, I think we get frustrated, but it's like, it's meant to have all these checks because they're not supposed to be able to really be interfering. So I think that's why it grinds to a halt. It's like, well, I can't get anything done. I'm like, oh, okay, that's maybe good. Let the states do it.
I'm curious, Don, you said you couldn't disagree more. I want to hear more on what you have to say about that.
I don't, because I couldn't disagree more with what he said. I mean, I totally disagree with everything he said. So I wouldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't know where to start. So I mean, I've worked for 25 years, swimming upstream, as you said, against Roy Moore and against that goddamn flag. And then you're telling me you don't like it there, so move? fuck that. I want to change it. I want to stay here and change things. I don't want to move to somewhere. Well, we just legalized pot, so at least there's that.
Look how more progressive you are than Georgia. Look how more progressive that is in there. And I appreciate your fighting. That's why I said that wasn't directed at you personally. That was like, if people are like going to whine about it, but you sound like you're using your voice and trying to actually fight people like Lauren Moore. There needs to be more people, obviously, with you. You're not one of those people who believe. You're like, you want to fix it. It's like, it's another version of the, like America Lead, right? It's like, no, I want to fix like what we have here with our voices. But there is, all I'm saying is trying to just spotlight back to the Republic piece. Like, right. We are a republic. People can like have that freedom of movement to be able to do that. And it's like, at some point, like we have to look after our self-interest. And, I would have to truly like take a really hard look if I'll make up a scenario, and I hate to do this. Let's say that I had 2 young daughters, and and this is a totally made up situation, and it's like 2 years old or something like that. And I was living in Alabama. I would definitely be looking at, with my partners, we would definitely be talking about potentially having to move, or like whatever our opportunities would be, to try to figure out a way to do that so that they wouldn't be threatened. Because like, I'm sorry, maybe you think this is selfish shit, this is libertarian aspect in me coming out, but I wouldn't want to risk their future and their choices because I wanted to fight this bigger fight, and then it never goes through, and their rights are actually infringed upon. So I would take it as like, you try this, but people we have to like preserve the rights, and I'm not going to be able to Sisyphus push that rock up. There's just not enough critical mass. I have to do what would be best for my family, and I would view it as like moving them if I had daughters like that. I mean, I don't know, like to like protect people's rights and their rights for that, because that's the only one I can influence.
Yeah, and I definitely think people need to stay and fight. I mean, if we can turn Georgia blue, who's to say we can't turn Alabama blue? We can do it if there's people willing to fight.
We turned half blue for a couple of years with Doug Jones, like Justin was saying. So see, that's the reason why I stay and fight, is because, okay, well, we did elect Doug Jones. I mean, he did get elected. I mean, he was taking the replace at the he had the remainder of Sessions' term, and that's why he was only in there for like 3 years. It's because Sessions went to work as the AG for Trump. But since he did win that election, it's like, hey, hell, we've elected a Democratic senator from Alabama. And so, hey, a big victory. I mean, fucking huge victory, So, but I can understand what you're saying about having children and stuff and moving, but I mean, my family has been here for, since the Civil War. No, we didn't have slaves. We didn't have slaves. I lived in the mountains. I didn't live on a plantation. So, I mean, but I would like for but I haven't always lived in Alabama. You probably, I mean, I know about the accent, but I mean, I've lived in Manhattan. I've lived all over, and I moved home to help take care of my mother. And I was like, okay, I want to stay and make things change. Mo Brooks is our representative in Congress. Mm-hmm. You know who Mo Brooks is?
Yeah, no, I think I've seen like it's like political clips. I would, not.
He was one of the ones at the Stop the Steal rally that was the most aggressive. Go fight. And he was. I mean, he spoke worse than Trump did, inciting that riot. And that's and then when I lived in Atlanta, that's who my representative was.
What a shit show that all was.
No, fuck, what was his name? Newt Gingrich. When I lived in Atlanta, that was who my representative was. It was like, good grief. How much can one person take?
Let's look at the modern conservative of like this harsh nationalism. Right. The biggest difference is a harsh nationalism versus the Newt Gingrich era of when he was in power of compassionate conservatism. Reagan, that was a brand there. There was, I forget how many million people, I think it was 1 million people that amnesty was offered to from an immigration standpoint under Reagan. Like,
The
it
Tea
was a
Party
different-
thing that.
right?
Yeah.
It's just a different tone of conservatism.
I agree
those
totally.
people still exist. Yeah. I just think they're more reasonable than the modern conservatives, right now to be able to talk about.
But Trump didn't start that. I mean, it started like with the Tea Party movement. Like halfway through Obama's presidency, remember the Tea Party took over half of the Republican Party. But no, I'm with you.
Trump killed that. Trump killed that.
Killed what?
The Tea Party.
That the guy that's the minority leader in the House. He said he was a Tea Party person. What's his name?
Justin Amash in the House. He was a Republican. You had people like Thomas Massey. You had people that they were calling somewhat liberty Republicans.
Jim Jordan was a Tea Party person, and then he just went over. A lot of that just got absorbed into Trump
because he wasn't really in there. But it was like 2000. It was their unified message. After Obama, won in 2008, 2010, they started all that. Right, it was like hardcore fiscal conservatism and cut spending and
taxed them up already.
The debt ceiling issue and government shutdown over, and they were hugely principled. John Boehner, Speaker of the House, or at least they were coming across that way. Under Trump, they switched to the guy who said nobody knows more about debt than I do. They
Which is true.
They spent more. Hang on one second. So they spent more, and to that part of the Tea Party then got neutered. The tribalism just sort of blended them back in. But that value around fiscal conservatism, or the Gadsden flag waving people of like, don't step on the snake, moved to
don't tread on me, but yes,
which was like endorse the boot, not the snake.
Yes.
Endorse the boot, not the snake. So where the other people are like, so the libertarians have had a greater position there. Justin Amash a couple of years ago switched from the Republican Party to the Libertarian Party because he's like, I'm still voting against high budgets. But everybody else sort of tribalistically fell under Trump, but he killed the Tea Party. Look at the expansion of government and security that happened under all administrations. Like, there wasn't a walk back of Patriot Act level. I mean, Trump signed into law FISA 702, just continued all that stuff while pretending to bitch against it. So I respectfully challenge this notion that the Tea Party went because their Tea Party is neutered. This is a new workers' party right now, and there is no fiscal conservatism. They're trying to come back to it, almost like a little bit of a message, but show me fiscal conservative policy over the last 4 years.
I have a question for everyone. Do you think that religion in law has become more obvious in the last, 4-10 years than it ever has in the past? It seems like it's being pushed more now than it has before.
Religion and law. Say that again. I didn't get.
Do you think religion is being pushed more now than it has in the past?
No. It seems like it, but I mean, not from where I'm sitting. It's been bad the whole time. Social media too has amplified everything. But
I agree, Don.
Yeah, and for the worse. I mean, I remember when Ted Turner said, "Hey, I've got this good idea. If you can't make it home by 6 o'clock and you can't see Dan Rather, I'm going to start a 24-hour news station." And everybody was like, "Hey, that sounds like a pretty good idea." Yeah, not so much. Same thing with the internet. You'll have every book ever written right here in your hand. And so, this internet sounds great. But what did it do? It brought out the nut jobs out of the woods right down into the middle of town. So, it's an open sewer. But it sounded good to begin with. I mean, I'm not saying do away with it, but I mean, a lot of ideas that sound good, like cable news, and they turn. I don't know. I just it's frustrating, but it just but no, religion has been, at least down here, thick.
And I think you're right. And I think maybe social media has just brought more attention to it.
Social
Yeah.
media has been like gasoline on
Hmm.
the fire.
I don't necessarily know that it's not a good thing, really. I mean, you can't do away with it, but because it's here already. But I guess it's better that they just reveal themselves for who they are. You know, at least we don't wonder what they're doing out in the woods, burning crosses and shit. I mean, they're filming it, and showing it on YouTube, or breaking into the Capitol or whatever. I don't know. I'm just think. I mean, when I grew up, we had a damn antenna outside, and we got 3 television stations. And after 10 o'clock, we could get Superstation TBS in Atlanta, but you had to go outside and turn this pole with this antenna on it. And so it's and then now we have 500 channels, and I don't know. It's just the way I don't know that it's changed for the better, really. I mean, I know there's a lot more choices, but some of those choices are just horrible. I don't know. And Chris, you're older than me, but I mean, I know you probably didn't have to go outside and turn an antenna pole to get some TV station.
Yeah, no, I understand. So I think I have 2 things on that. One is the projection issue. I think that social media does put a lens on a magnifying glass of like what a very small, individual might be doing to like, but now it's clicks and likes, what Ted Turner started, to your point. So I completely agree with that. But to Destiny's question, I think I also want to agree with Donald there completely. That I hear the threats, and I hear there's a minority that is like pushing some extremism. Do I think it's being more governed via law now than ever before? No. Why? Because again, founding where it was, and when documents had said men were property owners and being able to vote, and women weren't able to vote for what was that, 130 years or something like that, or however many years it was before.
It's about 100 years ago when they got the right to vote, isn't it?
Right.
Like the 20s or 30s.
We had government sort of just protecting certain things that men were allowed to do. You had male dominated. You still have male dominated in politics, but you had more states several years ago. I think it was 11 states at the last count. I could be wrong. Maybe it's down to like 8 or something like that. That there are laws on the books that say that you cannot be mayor or other elected positions if you're an atheist. So. That's true. I mean, it's a Googleable thing, but I think it's maybe 8 or 9 right now. But Alabama may be one of them where you can't be an atheist. But I don't think that there's more religion. I think there's that.
I don't think we have a threat down here of that happening. I see your point though. Yeah.
On the abortion issue, like I try to meet conservatives in a way because I think that they have a strong bias, and again, I want to project myself, but I think many people will put again maybe a religious core value in there. But I just saw somebody in the background of your house. Hey, somebody!
Yeah. You have a nice place, by the way.
Oh, thank you so very much, man. I do. I love it. Dream
it's
home.
95 degrees down here, so the fireplace looks really strange because I mean, seriously, down here it's like 90 degrees and 98% humidity. So I can't even imagine a fire.
Dream home, dream property, dream girl. Best partner in the world. It's fabulous. There's a lot of people everywhere. I'm not trying to like just gloat, but it's good space. And it's just there's a lot of love, and so we talk about a lot of these issues. So I try to meet, like, even libertarians are split. We just usually agree that many times that, whatever your personal religious view is, it shouldn't come. I think even Justin Amash, one of the best well-known libertarians, is like pro-life, but has always been on the position of it's not government's job to rule on those sorts of things. And I think that kind of messaging is important.
I do too.
But I try to meet people on a property rights issue. Like I'll meet people at a property rights. Because people that say that, like, whether it's a zygote or a fetus has rights, and the issue comes to personhood. And again, I'm pro-choice, that a woman can do with her body what she chooses. if we want to believe in property rights and then it's a person, then we can look at, well, what about the mother / host? So I'd be a little more like, emotional on that. But like the host has a right to then like what they don't want on their own property. And a woman has a right to do with what her property, what she doesn't want, and she can forcibly evict somebody. She have a right to take that thing to court if she didn't want it put there. Not everybody makes the choice to do that. Even if they do, they're not consenting to that. So to me, the issue can come down to words matter and words mean something, and your body is your property. And it's not to take the focus off of women's rights in any way, like to not call them out. But I think you can meet people in a non-emotional way on the issue of property rights. And it's like, well, where is, if that person is a human being at 3 weeks old or whatever people say. And again, and on Roe v. Wade, I think the argument's going to come down to, I don't think it's going to be demolished. I think the argument's going to come down to where they're going to say, what they're going to look at with life. Is it 16 weeks or 20 weeks right now? I think it might be 20.
24 weeks, I think. Is in
some states, but in a rare, but like in most, if you look at Roe v. Wade, I think it's 20. And I think the argument's going to be, not my position, I think the argument's going to be the science and medical technology of what was available in the 60s, when that research was done, and in the 70s, is very different than the research and the scientific stuff that's going to tell you, from today. Not my position. I think that is a position. And so I think there's going to be something like, well, what was the criteria they used that? Were they looking for heartbeat? Were they looking for feel? Like, well, I don't remember. I don't know. But they may take it there. So you may see a lowering or something like that. It's not.
I think there'll be a lowering.
I agree. I don't know. I don't want that, but I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to still bring harm to women, and it's going to cause women more harm. So I don't condone it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying I think that's where it's going to. That's likely where it would go at a Supreme Court level. I don't think it's like Barrett's pro-life and it's gone. I don't see it that way.
Well, something interesting I've been hearing a lot is a woman in 100 days could only mother one child. A man in 100 days could father 100 children. So why is the focus on women and not men?
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole property rights thing comes there. If a zygote is a human life and it's human being, then is the father immediately responsible financially at 2 weeks? That 1 week, are we going to start? Should we not then see child support payments start at 2 weeks? Are we going to have that issue in court? Are we going to talk about insurance? Are we covering insurance benefits for that? I think like there's a conversation that have to be had with the right that would be like unreligious, but I think those are the downside risks of saying somebody's a person. Then you go, okay, well, what's the other person? Where's their rights? Where's her rights? And then where's the right? It comes down to consent, man. Like so many things in this country come down to the smallest minority is the individual, and that's not to take the strong challenges away from minority groups, but the smallest minority at a sort of large level is the individual. And I just don't want government like making those decisions for people. Like, fuck that.
I want to be clear. I want to be very, very, very clear about when we first started talking about abortion. I definitely agree that it's a woman's right to choose. I mean, that's established law, and I agree with it. I just gave a personal experience for when morally for me it changed, but it never changed legally. Like I just was so surprised at how that happened. It just sort of made me question just within myself, not for the law, because I believe it should stay the law the way it is. I don't want that to change at all. But it just that bitch was so cold-blooded when she looked at him and said it was a boy. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
I mean, it just changed me. I mean, not it didn't really change me. It just made me look at it in a different way. I was like, ugh. But I mean, I'm not willing to take.
Meanwhile, we pass on discussions on the war on drugs. We pass on discussion on the prison-industrial complex. We pass on discussions of ending the Afghanistan war. You want to talk about tribalism again? Look, Trump was going to pull out of Afghanistan and the Democrats went crazy and we were leaving our allies and all that. And it's like that used to be Obama's message, at some particular point, but even he reversed on that. So they just flip flop continuously, and we're not taking up things that are actually presidential or congressional that they should be. We get caught up, and I can see, because maybe this tells a little about me, because I'm a victim of it too sometimes, that people think it's conspiratorial, that it's like the quote unquote they
Who's they?
don't
Yeah.
want you to talk about the ubiquitous, they don't want you to talk about war on drugs. They don't want you to talk. So the message is shifted to abortion, which a president has so little to no say in. And it becomes a national conversation. It becomes, this whole thing about, Biden and his son Hunter and all that, which has no impact for the most part on anything. You know what I mean? It takes away from looking at Biden's record. The rhetoric about Brett Kavanaugh and the sexual assault, well, that needed to be discussed. Completely didn't allow for any discussion about how he felt presidents were above being prosecuted while in office. That the Fourth Amendment allowed mass surveillance under that he quote unquote said that the mass surveillance and data storage is completely in line with the Fourth Amendment. Like, we didn't have that conversation because of these spectacle issues. And I can understand, and that gives rise to the Q and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not a Q person, but I'm just saying, I understand after a while when you sit there on a common sense level, not a deep K Street political analyst and our allies and all the bullshit people justify. Common, basic, everyday American are going to sit there and go, that has nothing to do with us. Just focus on what's going on here. And Trump spoke that language, like
Yes,
right,
he did.
wrong, or different. Like, it's like you can sit there and go, he lived in an ivory tower, but it's like he wasn't connecting at that level.
No.
He was connecting at a fuck all these people level. Like, and I don't like that guy, but like I saw what was going on.
I agree with the exception that it wasn't an ivory tower. It was like a gold full. I mean, it was fool's gold, really. I mean, it was so gauche, that Trump Tower. Have you ever been to Trump Tower?
I have. I've walked past it. I'm not a fan, but I've walked past into the lobby.
No, I'm not a fan either, but I have been in there, and it's ridiculous. It's so well,
after Nate Silver got it wrong in 2016 and admitted that they got it wrong, which I thought was great, a great sign of humbleness. They had a podcast a few weeks later or so, which like gave some time for some analysis of exit polling and such. And one of the most brilliant perspectives that came for that, I wish I remembered the speaker who said it, not my own thought, but I definitely was influenced by it, was that the deciding factor is sort of this nebulous cultural issue. Yes, there was religious sects. Yes, there were people that, swayed either side continually. They were always going to vote a certain way. But that there was this nebulous cultural thing that, like, there were people that were just in this, regular American life. They were sitting there in Georgia. They were sitting there going, like, and seeing Trump sitting on gold, flying in and out of, like, Robin Leach and Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous,
Yes.
that whole stuff, and sit there and go, like, what, if I had billions of dollars, I can do that too. I'd tell Washington, screw it. I'd say you can't have my taxes. I'd say you do that. Even though they actually really support it, there's this bit of like, and it's just sort of like, the guy's way unqualified, but like, are you not entertained? I think is where
Are you not entertained? that was a great line. That was a great line from that movie. Huh?
In a way that Biden didn't, but I mean, I know he won, but there was a coalition against him just because of like, Trump's
And something we definitely have to be aware of is just because Biden is our president, Trump already stacked the Supreme Court for these religious laws to possibly sneak through. So I am definitely not opposed if Biden were to come forward and say, I want to add more Supreme Court. I would be like, yeah, we need to even things out. Not only that, but I think it needs to better represent the population today because it doesn't represent us now.
I'd like to take an immediate counterpoint with that. I'm so sorry. Let me take a counterpoint respectfully. We all know the rules, right? They're not new rules. trying to add more seats is definitely, if they can get it through Congress, if they can get it through, like, there are mechanisms to be able to do that. And if they want to do that, then that's, that's their right or political choice to do that. I don't think it's wise, because it means that you weren't able to get enough people, you didn't make decisions before. So now you have to take these radical things. And what do I mean? I believe that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was 82 when she passed. And I know that she was a huge inspiration. But she was 79 in the last year, I think, or 78 in the last year of the Obama administration, right? Or it was 76 in the first years of the Obama administration. If Ruth Bader Ginsburg had retired, or the political machine would have influenced her to retire or whatever, they would have had that seat. But she kept it until, like, she was in the hospital with pancreatic cancer and would not, and came out of treatment and did not resign. So
she hedged her bets and lost.
Democrat side. Like,
she wanted Clinton to.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, she hedged her bets and lost. She wanted Clinton to replace her nomination because the symbology of woman president replacing
or like but that's I guess that's an example of, like, maybe there's respect to that, like, but what was more valuable her than the actual party. But my other challenge to come back to is that so far there's been 2 years of more conservatives, even though Barrett was just last year. Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch has ruled straight down a liberty standpoint. There was one abortion case or 2 abortion cases that never even made it, that Brett Kavanaugh wrote the opinions to kick them back. So, I think there's rhetoric there, but I think they have to look at, like, well, what's their record so far? Like, where does the record matter? I respect the fear, but, like, where does the record matter of, like, what they're doing? There's been no major reversal at the Supreme Court level. Like, there just hasn't been, and they've had so many opportunities on things over the last couple of years.
And my counter to that would be not to, certain people are coming from a place of, like a woman or LGBTQ. When we're looking at it, yeah, we kind of always have to be on our toes, because at any minute those rights will be stripped away from us.
Thank you.
So I don't have any right to be able to, like, say how anybody feels when it comes to that. So, like, I'm not. It's all shit the way that all went down.
I check out on 2 of those categories. So yeah, I'm definitely always aware.
Yes, me too. But Amy calling me Barrett, hot dog, Barrett. She wasn't a judge when she got promoted. What was she? Like, her background.
She was teaching law school at Notre Dame. She already was previously, but it's not actually a qualification in the Constitution that you have to be a judge. And there have been several people that were appointed there that you would sit there and go, do they have really good judgment?
Well, she taught at Notre Dame, so I guess that can pretty much tell us that she's not for abortion, right?
And here's the other thing. Here was the way I looked at it. Like, she was presented as a villain, and I'm not a religious conservative again, so I'm not influenced by that. I was trying to be fair, trying to look at a lens. Instead of like the whole thing again with Barrett was like, anti-women's rights and all these sorts of things. And yet, for the first time on the Supreme Court, even going through the nomination process and all that pressure and the focus and all that, what wasn't being celebrated, it was that there was the first mom that was going to be on the Supreme Court. She is balancing, like, I think it was 6 kids or something like that, one of them being adopted, adopting children of color, sort of a very different profile of a teacher now after being a judge, a mom, this different case, but that wasn't the narrative with her. But, like, why not? Like, isn't that, like, the first time we've had how many, a percentage of moms have that actual voice? And you go, well, they have a voice at the Supreme Court? Well, every, big demographic should. But it's just a person with that sort of background, and it wasn't celebrated or respected in any way, shape, or form in that discussion, I don't think.
I agree with you. I think you're right. But I think that when McConnell wouldn't let Obama put
terrible. It's terrible.
What'd you do?
Oh, I said it was terrible. Like, he came back and they wouldn't take the vote, and Obama could have steamrolled it and didn't. And then they completely came back on it. There was video of it, and people gave him a pass, and that was horrible.
I mean, but that's where it got. I mean, at that point when Obama didn't get to nominate someone because McConnell wouldn't bring it up, or wouldn't even interview him or anything. That's when it really got so toxic. People were pissed at that. And then
Right. Obama could have used a recess appointment. Obama could have appointed a judge in recess, or excuse me, a justice in recess, and then like they did, if they lost, then the Republicans were going to have not just a simple majority. They were going to have to, if they were going to, confirm or whichever, it might be easier. It might have been a negotiation. Again, bad strategy. They took a risk. Like, I don't think we should be intervening in like what happens. There will be people that die out. The same thing's going to be right now for Justice Kennedy, I think. How much older is he going to get before, what if Trump runs again, or whoever a Republican might be? And they're going to sit there going, Kennedy's going to carry it out into his 80s. At some point, there needs to be like a look at the Supreme Court justices and like their strategy for exiting versus trying to make it to 100.
Are you suggesting that there'll be a limit as to how old you can be to be on the Supreme Court?
I personally would like to see that. I would like to see it done through legal channels. But I also support that stuff for presidency. I know right now that's not the case. There's a minimum age, but I think that there are definitely issues where people get out of touch. And just not because I would want a political party better represented. I think that's a strategy thing. I just think it's like a population representative of that age. So I think maybe there should be terms, or something like that, which sometimes means that those are going to match up by elections.
Were you around when Kennedy was elected?
No, that was a little bit after. I was born in 1972. I like to study some of the elections, but.
Okay, well, I've just been. I'm the senior spokesperson here now because I'm older than you.
Okay, what year were you born, sir?
65.
Okay.
So the year that George Milley stood in my university and said segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. I went to that same university.
Oh.
But it was horrible. My aunt was a student at Alabama at that time. And that was a PR stunt, totally. I mean, he knew the National Guard was there. It was going to happen. But it wasn't, it's not like everybody in Alabama was for that. Like 48% were against it and 52 were for it. That's, so that's why I'm telling you that I stay and fight, is because, if it were 90% NASCAR, Trump waving bullshit going on down here, yeah, I'd be gone. But it's more like 52-48, and so there's a really good chance that we might sway some minds. And so I'm like, hey, my family's owned this dirt for 150 years, and I want to keep it, and I want to change the way my neighbors think about shit.
I hear you.
So, I don't know. I hope you're right about the Supreme Court. I don't know about packing it with more Supreme Court justices. I agree with that. It really pissed me off when McConnell did that shit with Obama. It just, that. And then, the worst thing, because, a lot of people were like, hey, well, let's have a businessman come and run the government. Like that, whoever thought that was a good idea? The reason for a business is to make money. You don't want a businessman because it's not, the government isn't looking to make money. That was a stupid idea. I think that's how Trump got a chance. I don't know how he got elected. I still think about it all the time.
Well, I don't mind a business person because, again, look, throughout history, we've had people that have just ascended to that role that used to be military leaders, right? Because they used to be, that used to be such a strong characteristic. And then there were other people that were, lifetime politicians, and there were some people who were more judges and moved over, or senators and moved up the ladder that way when money started buying politics, more and more. Or you had farmers early on and stuff. So, I think it comes down to the character and what they represent and what they want to do versus the job. Because, that in the Constitution, again, it doesn't say that you can't have a job and you can't, represent that. I think Trump was shady and was like manipulating a lot of benefit himself, and openly sort of flaunted that as part of his charisma, exploited that constraint, and it resonated with a lot of people. And so they didn't associate him with quote unquote the government. I associated him with the government. So,
Have you ever been to? Did you ever go to Atlantic City when he had a casino there?
I did. I've been to Atlantic City a long time ago. I
went to. I won $1,000 on the craps table at Taj Mahal, and I have some friends that have a video of me leaving the Taj Mahal. I mean, I hated Trump since he opened Trump Tower, so this is 15 years after that, and even before The Apprentice happened. But yeah, it was $1,000. It's not a lot of money to me. It wasn't nothing to Trump. But I got a little tipsy after winning that money because, they give you free drinks. It is foul, the video that my friends have of me, because I am going off like a crazy person having won $1,000 for Donald Trump. I mean, it's funny. We watch it. It's funny, but it's embarrassing. I wouldn't want anybody to see it. But it was fun. It was really fun because, but I would never. I went one time and it was so tacky, but anyways, I've never liked him, and it doesn't have anything to. I mean, it goes way back, so it's nothing new on Trump for me.
I know Justin was trying to find like middle ground at some point, so like I try to look at it and go, well, I don't like either Republican or Democratic parties or most of their major positions. I try to find like at a personal level, could there be 4 or 5 things that I liked, and there's probably 4 or 5 things that I really didn't like, and I did do the same thing with Obama. I think there were like 5 things that were actually pretty good under Trump that were there. And I don't think any credit goes to those things. I think there were some really bad things that happened, that were there. And again, I could go to the Obama administration and say the same thing. So I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Obama's presidency was not all roses.
Oh, agreed.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Justin, get in there.
That leads me to a really great question. Do you think that we as a country are too divided religiously and politically that we can find a middle ground?
Yes, I do. I think, I don't think it'll be like another civil war where we fight, like that. But I think it's like a marriage that it's time for divorce. I really sort of think that, or I think it's really, really close to being that way. It's always been, divided, but it seems worse now than it is. As long as I can remember, it seems like it's worse now. How do you feel?
I think we're definitely divided. I think we allow ourselves to be divided. And I think if we could somehow find ways to change, whether it's messaging or people being interested in a message, that was pretty much like, let's look at things from from a common ground standpoint, or where they could, or maybe the realistic, this value right here. Don't have government involved in it, because I think the fights come from, well, should government do this? Should government do that? Should they pass a law that stops, a woman from having, or try to reverse a Supreme Court case? Should we have a law that, has universal health care? All these sorts of really passionate issues. If the lens was, is it the government's job to do that? Versus what do you want? Because you can always do those things at your state level. Pay for them. Just, raise your taxes, do whatever, pay for them at the state level. Sit there and go, if we look at the lens of is it government's job, then I think we find the answers to a lot of those big things that we're fighting about. Because more times than not, I think it will come back that the answer is no.
You are a libertarian.
If we like wield the power of government to whack other people and just to fight other people, I would just say we look to less rely. That's what I mean by if it's not in the Constitution, not in the Bill of Rights, then it goes to the states and we litigate to make sure that at a Supreme Court level to make sure that protected classes aren't harmed and no constitutional rights are being violated. But like let people live and like stop whatever your personal about, like just stop trying to force that stuff on other people.
What stuff?
Any of your values. Let people live, then choose the things. It's the value of personal consent.
But you said something specifically about healthcare.
But yeah, I mean that's a value that people try to push, right? The many, not all Democrats, but like I would say,
I think it should be a right.
That's
That's
totally
where
true.
we're
It's
different.
not- You could absolutely feel that way. I hear you, but it's not in the Constitution at all.
Well,
And so there's nothing that precludes it from being done at a state level. So you could do that. I'm all for it if you push it at a state level, and like a state like Massachusetts funded Romney Care, which was a good model, which had a public option, however they wanted to do it. But it's not a constitutional. It's not a like trying to make it a federal issue becomes like where the tribalism comes down to. If you said it's not the federal government's job to do that, then the right's pushback of like it's going to cost too much and it's free shit, and the left's push of it's a right and all that. These things don't even become an issue because it's not the government's purview to do that.
A good example in my city town, it's a small town, but our tax dollars cover ambulance rides for people in the entire town.
That's awesome.
And nobody bats an eye. Nobody thinks twice about it, and they love it. And it's like, well, why
They
couldn't
probably
we
had a
expand
voice in it
that?
at some point. They probably had a voice in it at city council at some point. That's a great idea of example of local governance. As much as I hate taxation, if I would sit there and look at it as from a pragmatist standpoint, I would rather see more money spent at a local level and a state level than a federal level. But right now, mostly it's like 20 to 30% for a lot of people, up to the 40 or 38% or whatever for some. But you're sitting there paying that level. It's like, well, what if you were investing in the state or local level and you only paid your 2% local to the federal government? Guess what? We might not be able to save up to take over another Middle Eastern country. But if we really save our pennies, maybe we can do that in a few years. Like the state of Georgia, the state of Ohio would not have voted for an invasion of Iraq or an occupation of Afghanistan for 20 years, but we allow it through all of the spending. So if we cut back on what we did and let the states have the power, it's just not their purview. Then I think we just can come together on things and then vote at your state. Like, why not do a healthcare plan at a state level? Like that's where you have power to do it. You have total say. Do it at a community level. Everybody's funding. Find doctors who'll serve you. Like there's community organizing. We like try to attack it from the top of the hill, and it's like it loses the consent issue. So it comes back to consent. If you think it's a universal right, but then you're forcing me to pay for it, taking more property, then I'm sitting there going like, where's the value of consent coming? I value consent.
I could see where that would work. It would almost be like a trickle up effect where, people would see that local towns or cities or even states, well, hey, this universal healthcare is really working for said state or city. Maybe we should adopt that too. And it would just kind of eventually take over and most places would have it.
You'd show proper use cases. Sometimes I just think when they're like, yeah, we'll look at the ACA, which I think had some good things. I would vote for it if it was at a state level, to be able to do that. I don't support it at a federal level, not because, and there's nothing to do with the right issue. It's because I don't think it's a federal issue. I try to be just passionate about it, but I know people are very passionate and I respect that, but it's just to me not a right because it's not enumerated in there. When you look at the general welfare clause, you have provide for common defense, promote general welfare. Well, provision and promotion are different things. If I'm doing a concert and I'm providing it for you, you're coming over, you got free tickets, I'm bringing drinks, but if I'm promoting a concert, I'm saying, come see it, you got to pay for it. So promoting general welfare, you want to promote a public option, that's fine. Have it based on dollars that are contributed by people who want to consent and participate. And then maybe there's just less available, but you could still expand coverage. And it would be like a pragmatic move of like just valuing consent. And if people don't want to pay for it, I think they will. If the message is there, and if you don't, there's less money spent. $28 trillion in debt. When is anybody going to actually do it? The Republicans laughed about it or talked about it for 8 years and then ignored it for 4. Dems are doing what they can to get the economy back on track, spending a lot of money, trying to Keynesian sort of funnel the model, not mocking it. I don't believe in it, but I'm not mocking it. It's a strategy. It has worked in the past. So, but like, when are we looking at like actual debt and stuff like that? Nobody talks about. Like, it's just like nobody talks about fixing Social Security, which has to be fixed in the next 12 years before it starts paying out more than it takes in. Is a real broken issue. Sorry.
I don't know. No, go ahead. I don't have an argument for that. I don't.
Those are hard discussions, and the more we talk about, like, I'm sorry if this comes across as crass, but the more we talk about a lot of these other extraneous issues, which aren't necessarily actually on the table, like we lose laser focus on, should we be making a decision? How do we want to spend resources? Like more voting, more clean bills, more things that people could go. Would a Democrat believe in more clean bills? Probably. Would a Republican? Yeah. Would a Libertarian? Yeah. Why don't we do it? Because there's no way they can use stuff to influence, and negotiate shit. So you get a healthcare bill, or you get a personal bailout bill that has, foreign aid embedded in it and all this kind of stuff, because of like that we never passed directly.
And I think tonight, before tonight, I was definitely, we need universal health care from the top down. I mean, we got to go big. But in having this discussion, I can definitely see where it would be beneficial to work from local government up. So again, this is why these discussions are so important.
Thank you for that. I think it's good. It's good discussion back and forth. It's usually what I'll turn around and say, and I don't mean to be in an ever disrespectful way. It's like, yeah, we need to have. What have you done at your state or local level to try that? Like, are there doctors who are just negotiating for cash payments, or whatever? Are these, people should be able to collectively bargain or to be able to pool money in any way they want to. Healthcare lobby has written by insurance companies prevents sometimes those things. Pass sanctuary laws like they've done on both immigration and guns. To be able to sit there and go, some of those mandates, so we're going to negotiate how we want to. Like, there can be great community activism on that stuff, and progress made, rather than, I think, like trying to move the entire ship.
That works too. There was that town, I think it was in New Jersey, where they fired the entire police department and started over, and it worked for them. And maybe that's what we need to start looking at, is focusing on local governments and working our way from there up. Because it's a daunting task to try to take it from the top down.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap up. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. I know it's gone on a little bit more. I'd love to.
Where did our moderator go?
I put him to sleep.
I think we ran just enough.
But Destiny, thank you so much for. Oh, sorry, he's having some need. Thank you for having me on. I'd love to come back and, like I said, set up our crypto moderating thing, because we had like 20 people in our crypto group. Run a crypto.
What is that about?
It's about blockchain and cryptocurrency, and talking about more than just Bitcoin, but talking about like what it actually does, explaining it, the jargon out, so just I do a lot of professional education. So, and I love crypto, and I have a small crypto company on Cardano.
Really?
Called Birchpool, yeah. But I really want to do like an open Q&A, like with people. So Justin, I'd totally love to like talk to you offline with like Josh and Eric, and get something set up for a couple weekends from now.
Yeah, we can game plan. Definitely, it's something we can definitely do. I'm sorry, I've been dealing with some drama. It's
I'm sure. Yeah.
I just like that these discussions are so important. I mean, look at tonight. We could come to a common ground and agreement on something where previously we might not have.
Yeah.
That's true. I love having open mind discussions with people.
Nobody yelled at each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a win.
And of course, there are extremists on both sides that will never, come to the table and try to find common ground. And that's unfortunate.
Well, yes, it is unfortunate. Wrap it up. Wrap it up, boss.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chris and Don, for coming on. Destiny, thank you as always. I'm sorry that I got wrapped up in some other stuff.
And for Alex too earlier.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Lost me. There we go. Hello. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks so much.
All right.
All right.
Great to talk to you and get to meet you.
It was nice meeting you.
Yep.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Bye.